Stephen A. Smith, I think just tonight there's very little pressure on LeBron James. 9 years in, 3 MVPs, so many playoff disasters. Last year, chosen one turned into the frozen one on this stage. LeBron James is getting the benefit of every doubt from the collective referees in these finals who, like so many people, feel like LeBron has suffered enough. He can't shoot because LeBron really can't shoot. That would have made LeBron nervous, okay? So if the Heat win tonight, this place, the pressure will go through the roof. It will be billed as a coronation for King James.
And we want to start by just finding out what's your, you may have more than one issue, but what's your biggest issue with Skip?
It's not just Skip, it's sports writers, sports media in general, where everything's generalities, right? Excruciating pressure. What the hell is that, right? You know,
it was excruciating pressure. That's what it was.
Is that meaning what, Skip?
Meaning that you personally watched up close and personal what LeBron went through last year against your Dallas Mavericks. Was it not the biggest collapse of a superstar that we've ever witnessed on a finals or championship stage?
No. I mean, first of all, it's a team game, right? You guys like to talk in complete generalities where no one can question you, right? You don't ever use facts. You don't ever use substance. You don't ever use
facts.
No.
That's all I use on this show.
What, excruciating pressure, undeniable this, you know, it's just all generalities.
There's never been a star under more pressure going into a finals, a championship series or game than LeBron James was under after 9 years and 3 league MVPs.
Well, first of all, you have the presumption that people care what you say. They don't. That when the guys go out there, when guys go out there, no, I'm talking about media in general. When guys get ready to play and they're in the locker room, they're not thinking, okay, well, what's written, what's going to be written, what's being said, right? I mean, they're getting prepared. And if you've got a good coach and you've got a good culture, then guys are ready to play no matter what. Like you guys were just talking about, you know, Miami wanted it more or less. Like that is just such horse, you know what, right? There's no such thing as it's not that Oklahoma City don't want it more. I think Miami was better prepared to play the game than Oklahoma City in terms of adjustments and changes. Now, if you want to talk about double teams and how they were used, whether or not they should have played zone, what defensive structure was in place, that's a valid conversation. But just saying they wanted it more, that's ridiculous.
Okay.
When you're Kevin Durant and you're Derek Fisher and you're Russell Westbrook, etc., and you're at that closeout game, there's nobody that wants it more. It's just a question of who executes better, and then you decide why.
Who played harder in the last games? Miami did every game. LeBron played harder than Kevin Durant did 4 straight games.
That is the most ridiculous thing any sports writer has ever said. Now, if you think when Kevin Durant walked off the court, he thought, yeah, I didn't play quite hard enough, right? Now, you can say like he wasn't put in a position to succeed. You could say that they didn't run the right plays. They didn't get the ball to him on the block enough. And if you were smart, you'd come out and you'd have substance. You say, you know what? This is how many plays they ran to him on the block. Here's how Miami defended it. Now, you can also argue that the Pat Riley way is always the same way all the time. Miami played it the same way all the time, and then we can have a discussion about adjustments. Like last year, did we play harder than the Heat? Is that what you think it was?
No, I don't. I think LeBron disappeared and shrank in crunch time of the fourth quarter, and I can just show you the numbers of what he didn't do in every fourth quarter.
So we get no credit for not putting him in a position to succeed, right? We played the Heat.
He put himself in. All he did was stand out on the perimeter.
Now, how do you think we defended that? Why do you think he was standing out there?
You didn't have to defend it.
Oh, right. So no matter what we did, he was just going to stand there and do nothing.
Well, that's all I saw. That was a lot of it.
That's exactly right, Chip.
And hope
that's
that
all
Dwayne
you
Wade
saw.
Saved the day for him.
You're exactly right. That's all you saw. You didn't look, right? I mean, and that's a complete insult to us to say, you know what, the adjustments that we made.
What did you do to force him out there?
We had like 6, 7 different types of matchups in our zone, right? And we played man-to-man, and we had a variety of different switches, right? So we knew that 90% of his shots were going to come from the left-hand side, right? We knew that if you gave him room from the left, he was going to drive. Now, we didn't have the athletes that Oklahoma City did, so we had to plan differently.
Sure.
So we need to make sure that we pushed him out away, and then we gave him different looks every time he had the ball, because just forcing him to make a decision, right, to think about what he had to do, taking the time to read, are we in a zone? What type of zone we're in? How are we matching up? What type of rotations are we in? Making him think made them pass the ball around the perimeter, which gave us a chance to adjust, right? Now, they're smarter. They're a better team this year. They deserve to win this year. But, you know, that's the way we played it. And so it wasn't just LeBron. LeBron actually played it right more often than not. He made the right pass to the right guy who didn't make the right play. And that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted to get the ball out of their hands and into the hands of somebody else. We wanted him to play Michael Jordan and make somebody play Steve Kerr. Now, last night, Mike Miller.
They had several Steve Kerrs in this
they had
series.
everybody stepping up, and they deserved every bit. You know, so, but you're talking generalities, and just to say, yeah, you are.
Okay, you spewed out some generality about the players don't care. Okay, let me tell you that for a fact, and Stephen A. can validate this, LeBron James listened to what I said for about, 8 years? Because that's all I heard. He said I was his Howard Cosell. And this year, for the first time, to his credit, he tuned out all the noise. That's all we saw in the finals was he's reading the Hunger Games trilogy before the games. He's meditating on the bench before the games. He tuned us out.
This is a Skip Bayless special. LeBron lost last year because he was paying attention to Skip Bayless. LeBron won this year because he wasn't. That's what you just said.
Okay.
Did he not just say that?
Okay, here's what he didn't do. Here's what he didn't do against you guys.
Okay.
He let you off the hook because he didn't do what we saw him do for 4 straight games. He didn't drive through your zone and slash it up and dish. He didn't post up at all. This was a new deal. This was a new post-up game that we saw this year from LeBron. He shredded the Oklahoma City defense because he drove and he dished.
Okay.
He did not
what kind
drive.
of defense? When
he
was
wanted to
driving,
be a pretty jump shooter against you guys, and it played right into your hands because he's a below-average jump shooter from the perimeter.
Okay, Skip. So when he was on the post, what were the different defensive schemes that Oklahoma City ran last night?
They used Cephalosha on him. They used Durant on him.
When he was in the post, what were the different defensive schemes that they used?
Ibaka was supposed to come hard and keep him from the rim, and he did not come hard. He let LeBron get to the rim repeatedly, and Perkins was nowhere to be seen.
I just asked a simple question.
Yeah, I just told you.
No, you said so-and-so was supposed to. No, they doubled from down, right? And they doubled and they passed and they hit their open shots, right? When they kept on doubling, they changed, right? Because they passed it out. Mike Miller hit open shot. But that's just one example.
Did he get in the lane against you guys last year? Not at all in the fourth quarter.
Now, why do you play a zone, Skip?
Well, again, I've seen him slash up any kind of defense when he feels like it.
Skip, one
He's
of the things
a freight train. You just said you don't have the athletes that they have.
Right, and that's why we play more zone than possibly Oklahoma City did, because we had smarter players, so not necessarily as athletic. But the thing about the Miami Heat, they play the Pat Riley way. Right? They play the exact same way all the time. And I thought this series was going to be about adjustments. Oklahoma City, felt they had to do it a certain way, and, it just didn't work, right? But it certainly wasn't the way we played them. And so if you want to sit here and discuss, look, let me put it another way. Every team tracks everything these days. So in game, we have 5 guys tracking what happens in a pick and roll situation, what happens in a post-up situation with LeBron, what happens with LeBron's posting, and we run this type of zone, that type of zone. So you know in game exactly what the percentages are going. And if you're paying attention, you know those things as well. Oklahoma City didn't seem to make the number of adjustments that they needed to make.
I agree.
And if you go through and look at the stats that I'm sure they have,
but
that's what surprises me.
You can throw all those stats out the window because, as Doc Rivers always says, it's a make or miss league.
Yep.
You won the championship last year because Dirk started making shots like he's never made them before. He played as tall as he is, 7 feet tall, and LeBron and Dwayne Wade started missing shots, or whoever else you want to throw in the equation.
No, actually, we put Dirk in a position to succeed because we knew what Miami was going to do. They didn't make a lot of adjustments. They kept on playing the Pat Riley way. That increased our confidence as the game went by. As the games went by, right? So when we got to Game 4 and everything was still the same, we knew we were going to win.
Are you criticizing the Pat Riley way?
Last year I was. This way it was perfect. This year was perfect.
What was different?
Last year versus this year?
Yeah.
They made their shots, and I don't think that there was as many adjustments against them.
Right, that's where I was going.
Right.
Your club made the adjustments throughout the series. How surprised were you that Oklahoma City did not?
I don't want to say anything negative about Oklahoma City because it's not like they've had all season to work on these things.
Right.
Right. We had the advantage of a full season where we played in Chicago preseason last year. We played a whole game of nothing but zone. Nothing but zone, because we knew we were going to have to go to the zone as our way to mix things up. And if you look at the offensive results against our zone, you'd see it was good. This year, because we had new guys, we didn't have as much time to practice. Indiana, same thing, right? Why didn't they play zone? You don't have time to practice the zone in the lockout shortened season where you don't practice. And I'm sure Oklahoma City faced the same thing. It's nice to say they could put in a zone, but if you don't have time to work on it, they can't. And I think that gave Miami a huge advantage.
So bottom line, you're saying LeBron didn't shrink under the pressure last year. You guys just took him out of the game.
I think we did a great job of taking him under the game. Maybe he could have done more, but I think he played a Magic Johnson game last year against us and needed other guys to step up, and they didn't.
Well, this year he took better than he was.
Of all the things that have been said, I took issue with just one thing the great Mark Cuban had to say. I'll address that in a second, though. I think I go.
We're going to take a commercial break.
The great Mark Cuban?
I've always said that. I've always been fond of Mark Cuban.
We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, Mark will stay with us at the debate desk. More ESPN First Take from Miami, Florida, right after this. In the debate center, Jay Crawford, Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, and owner of the Dallas Mavericks, and sadly, as of this morning, no longer the NBA champion, owner Mark Cuban. Stephen A. Smith, during Skip and Mark's debate, you ended by saying you took issue with one thing that Mark said. What was that?
I was incorrect. I took issue with two things.
All right. After further review?
Let's go to the first one. Mark and I go back a long ways. We've had many conversations in the past. One statement that you made that I want to address is that you said it's a ridiculous statement that, you know, somebody didn't want it bad enough. Every player wants it bad enough. I would answer that question with a question from you. Did Lamar Odom want it as bad as Dirk Nowitzki and the rest of your teammates?
Yeah, I'm not going to play around with Lamar, but let's put it this way. If a guy can't be part of our culture, you get rid of him.
No. I'm not asking that question. I wasn't even asking. I respect the intricacies of that. What I'm saying to you is that anybody and their grandmother could see that Lamar Odom didn't want it.
But so we're not talking about a game in the middle of the season.
I'm not talking about a game in the middle of the season. I'm talking about from the time that man got traded to Dallas, he really didn't want to be there. He was miserable because he wanted to be in L.A. What I'm saying is you can tell the difference. In other words, we've got.
No, I get your point.
That's all I'm saying.
Right, but you're in a closeout game of the finals. Right, and by the time you get to that point, the guys you're putting, it's not that they're like they were running the same rotation. Both teams shortened their rotation. So the guys that are in the game are the guys that are committed to play. Now, if there's a guy that you don't think is into it or you don't think deserves to play, you're not going to play him.
Well, but there are times, and I'm not saying that, and I agree with your assessment. What I'm saying to you is that in the context of highly competitive competition, in terms of effort, I totally agree with you. But what I'm saying is when you look at LeBron and you take into account all the suffering that he has endured over the last several years because of the expectations that weren't lived up to, because of the way he had been maligned and ridiculed or what have you. If you're Kevin Durant, sure, you're going out there and you're giving the same level of effort. But because you're seen and perceived as a relatively quiet, humble dude that everybody loves and is rooting for.
But it's a team game, Stephen. It's a team game.
I'm not disputing it.
It's a team game. So then that comes down to, are you putting your players offensively and defensively in a position to succeed? It's not a question of effort.
The only thing I'm addressing is that when somebody makes a statement about somebody else wanting it more, it really doesn't speak to effort per se sometimes. Sometimes it speaks to a level of desperation one has as opposed to one lacks.
Again, it's a team game. The worst thing, that's a perfect analogy, Stephen.
Sure.
Because on one hand, wanting it bad enough, going to make it happen, making the shots, being the shot maker, you know what they call that? They call that hero ball. And you know what the #1 killer of a team that's trying to come back? Hero ball. Right?
Russell Westbrook. Thank you.
Anybody.
I'm just saying
anybody, right?
That's all I'm saying.
And so, again, it comes down. Look, I think the most underrated element in the NBA is coaching. Coaching matters.
I agree with that.
The hardest position to hire in all the sports is your head coach. It's harder to find the right coach than it is to find the right players. And so, you know, to say that somebody just wants it more, was out there, you know, that's like, look, who wants it more than Perk? Just look at his face.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that you're taking it as somebody being maligned, and what I'm saying is sometimes it speaks to the level of desperation one may have. That's all I'm saying. But that's neither
I think
here
desperation is not the way to play the game, right?
Well, right or wrong, I'm just saying it happens. As a reporter, you're not beyond the pale to point that out. That's all I'm saying. But the other point I wanted to get to is this. You sat there and said media members, we don't know anything. Let's address that stuff.
No, I said when you're talking about generalities. When you're talking generalities, right?
Okay.
And that when you talk specifics and you've done your homework, everybody's going to respect what you've said. Mm-hmm. If you take the time to call the guys and find out their position, and you're reporting what they tell you, guys are going to respect what you said.
But you also
when you start talking about excruciating pressure.
Okay.
What the hell is that?
Well, I get
you know,
I get you, but you also, and that's for you and Skip to discuss because I understand that. But you did say, reporters don't, we don't use facts, and I'm wondering first of all, when are teams going to stand up? And I'm certainly not talking about you because you're one of the more honest people I've ever encountered covering the NBA. But when a team's going to stand up? I mean, you have PR departments, you have media relations department, you have people that are there lying to reporters every day, misleading them, spinning it and sending it in a different direction.
Absolutely.
So what I'm saying to you, that's right. So what I'm saying to you is, if we talk to a player and he wants to talk off the record but doesn't have the courage to talk on the record. If you want to talk to a coach who's giving you this tidbit of information, but you can't, but please don't use it. I'm saying it happens. So what I'm saying is there are too many reporters that have proven that have proven their level of credibility simply because of the information, not only the information that they've acquired, but also they're talking to folks, and sometimes they're protecting.
Two different things, Stephen, right. One is just reporting what guys will say, right? And if you get access and you get a reporter, great, more power to you. That's doing your job,
That's right.
And then there's effort, right? There's effort around all the other elements of the game, right? There's going in. You've got, this is Disney, this is ABC, this is ESPN. You've got more resources than any team ever had. You can, look, every team, or most teams will go in there, and we've got 10 guys breaking down tape, breaking down elements, so we know exactly what goes on internationally.
But Mark, what you just broke down shows, listen, you can bring in, listen, we've had analysts all over ESPN. Nobody has said what you just broke down about what you did to the Miami Heat last year in the NBA.
But all you have to do is look at the tape. That's the point.
No, wait a minute. Time out, wait a minute, Mark. Well, listen, did you know it before you became an owner and you were inside those locker rooms?
No, it's not about...
You had access.
No.
So what I'm saying,
Steve, you don't need access to go down and sit down and break down a tape. So everybody's talking about officiating, right? And I'm not going to say one way or the other. But if all you got to do is watch the tape and score it.
Wait a minute, Mark. Wait a minute. You have analysts all over various networks throughout this country that have watched it, that break stuff down. And they still don't know what you know because you own the team and the coach is literally showing you what he's doing. They might not show it to somebody else. So even though you might break down the tape and you might see certain things, some of the nuances that come
I don't agree with that, Stephen.
Come on.
No,
I'm telling you what coaches told me.
I can watch other teams. I can watch other teams play.
I'm telling you what coaches have told me. So what if I'm wrong? I'm wrong because they gave it to me wrong.